Hello, my fam. It is Perez, and I'm smiling, but I'm ready to fight. I'm about to hop on a Zoom call with a journalist at BuzzFeed, and I know that 99 out of 100 other people would have turned down this interview request because it's going to be a hit piece. She wants to make me look bad. So I'm going to record our entire chat and share it with you all. How do I know they want to take me down? Well, first of all, it's BuzzFeed. Secondly, let me read to you the request that this journalist sent over. And I won't reveal her name because I don't want any of you sending over harassment. I'm a big boy and I can handle myself. This is what she wrote. Hello, blank blank here. I'm a culture writer for BuzzFeed News based out of New York. I'm getting in touch because we're interested in doing a profile of a few early aughts tabloid figures. And I wanted to see if Perez might be interested in speaking to me. This feels like a good time to sit down with Perez, over Zoom, of course, as a lot of people are taking harder looks at how many famous women were treated by the media in the early 2000s. I know Perez has talked about this at length. Publicly, namely around Britney Spears, and has made amends. I'd love to talk to him more about his state of mind then versus now, and what kind of restitution he thinks might be important to give these women. I'd also be curious to talk to him about how his own brand has and continues to change. Blah, 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 blah. Then she went on and gave a bit of her bio. First of all, keywords here, key phrases, restitution and taking harder looks. This is not going to be fair or objective. This journalist is already coming to the table with an agenda. And what I'm going to tell her is, I am only viewing this as a positive because the people who dislike me, this article will just reaffirm that. And the people who like me, this article won't make them like me any more or less. They like me. I'm blessed to have my fam who see me for who I am today. And many of whom were also with me back in the day, and we were all younger, and it was all a different time, and we've grown up, and I'm so thankful that there's so many loyal members of my fam and new members of my fam that I've picked up along the years. I am in combat mode, but I'm not gonna fight her. I just know what to expect, meaning when I agreed last year to do BBC's Hard Talk, that turned out to be a Fox News interview on BBC. You know, it's one thing to ask hard questions. I can handle that. But when every hard question is wrapped around a negative opinion, I don't think that's good journalism. Even if it's, a cop-out and saying, well, a lot of people are really upset at you for this, or a lot of people were hurt by that. But when you make it me, I think it's just the Fox News style of reporting, and we'll see how it goes. I'm going to change outfits, and I've got 2 other things that I'm doing. I mentioned I'm going to record this, but you won't be able to see it. I'm making the background of my Zoom something crazy, like a disco nightclub, and I'm going to put some glasses on, kind of like to ward off the evil eye, just to have another barrier of protection from me and the journalist. Not sunglasses, because, you could still look into my eyes, and I'm going to be honest like I always am, but I need a little bit, space. Let me get dressed, and let's do this. All right. This isn't the best angle, but we got to work with it. Punctual, as always. She's late. All right, let me start it when she shows up. Okay, finally she's on. 3 minutes late. Not too bad. She's on. Just texting my sister. Just waiting to be let in now. All right, I'm ready. This is a bit of a better angle, I think. Now it's 4 minutes past. What's going on? There we go. Hello.
Hi, what a background.
You know, I think it always puts people in a better mood.
It does. It's good. How are you?
I'm good, thankfully.
Good.
You know,
Good.
it's actually 12 months and 1 day since everything, because my kids' school closed on the 10th of last year.
Oh, okay. So you're ahead of schedule then,
So yeah,
technically.
it's like almost exactly 12 months to the day, and I'm just thankful I'm in a much better place than I was last year.
Yeah, God, I know. Well, I mean, kind of. It's not really what I would have hoped a year in, but I guess I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take the vaccine. Thanks for taking some time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. I know you're probably getting a lot of requests. And I'm guessing that your rep shared with you what I wanted to talk about. You have a relatively good sense?
Yes,
Okay,
I read
great.
your email.
Okay, good. So some of these questions might not be fun, but you let me know if you don't want to answer them, we can talk about that too. So I think maybe the best place to start, I've been talking to a lot of different people who do work similar to yours and who sort of came up around the same time. And everybody has a different timeline for when they started to rethink how they were covering celebrities and how they were covering celebrity culture. I'm curious for you when that happened, or if it happened for you, what that timeline looks like.
Sure, and there is a timeline, and there was an evolution of thought throughout that timeline. I began blogging in September of 2004, 17 years ago. It's just crazy to think. I'm still here, though, so I'm very grateful for that. And pretty shortly into my career, I began having thoughts of changing how I was covering celebrities. I would say that I initially started to have these conversations with myself in 2008. And the reason for that was that is the year that I began my health and wellness journey. And I saw for myself that the healthier I became, the happier I became. And I was having happier thoughts, different thoughts, more positive thoughts. And that's not to say that I was miserable prior, but working on my health, I think, was the first stop in my ongoing journey towards healing. And only recently, after getting back into therapy, have I realized that for the entirety of my life, really, I never mourned properly, grieved, and healed from my dad's death.
When was that?
That was in my freshman and sophomore year of high school. So I think that was like 93.
Right.
And in many ways, Perez came about as a result of that. It's fascinating watching Prince Harry speak about mental health and explaining how the British royal family just doesn't talk about those things. Well, I would say that a lot of Latino families are like that as well. Especially in the 90s, when my dad died, early 90s. If I was married and my husband died suddenly, like my dad died of an aneurysm, unexpected, I would put my kids into therapy just to help them in ways that I could not help them. And my mother, God bless, was just trying to stay alive. She was that affected by things. She was just trying to stay alive herself. So what I did, in a different way than her, after my dad died, my mom almost stopped living.
Mm-hmm.
And so did I as well. But I never became aware of that until recently. I escaped reality and I drowned myself in TV and in pop culture in an unhealthy way.
Well, a lot of us do that. I mean, I feel like I grew up reading.
Yeah, but in a very unhealthy way, meaning I have learned so much about what kind of parent I want to be from how I was raised. So because I did really well in school, my mom kind of let me do whatever I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get home from school at like 2:30 or 3, and I would watch TV after my dad died every day until 1 or 1:30 in the morning. That's not healthy. I wish that my mom had instilled in me the importance of sleep at a younger age, because it affects your mood, it affects your performance, it affects everything. But then again, like I said, just like me throwing myself into these fictional characters on television and also Oprah and music on the radio and just everything to not be feeling and not be in my own life, not getting a lot of sleep was something that then also helped me later in life with having an incredible work ethic, because only recently, only since December of last year, have I really been prioritizing sleep. For 16 years of my career, I was surviving on 4.5, 5 hours of sleep. And it was just work. And in the same way or similar way as when I was young, drowning myself and escaping reality through TV, I was soothing myself and escaping reality with my job as Perez Hilton. And I look back at that time, those first 4 years before I started having these thoughts that maybe, I should do things differently. Now, in hindsight, I view me then as a hardcore drug addict, and attention was my drug. A drug addict in the moment knows what they're doing is wrong, and most of them wish they weren't using, but they're doing it anyways. Even though they can intellectualize, this is not good for me, not good for others. They might steal to get money to buy drugs, whatever it might be. And I really was an addict. I was getting all of this attention, and it happened so quickly. And this was pre-social media. And in many ways, similar, but maybe not as severe. All these generations after me, they're a lot of them hooked on the dopamine that's released when you post something, and what are people commenting and how many likes and all of those things. Part of me wishes that I could have claimed ignorance, but I'm very honest. I knew at the time what I was doing was wrong.
Oh, you knew?
Yes. And I just didn't care. I didn't care. I would justify my behavior to myself like some kind of lunatic as a coping mechanism.
What was the justification at the time?
Yeah, very Jekyll and Hyde. I would say, well, it's just a character. If people don't like what I'm saying, it's not the real me. It's Perez. And if people don't like what I'm saying, these were the three main talking points that I had to myself that I repeated every day, brainwashing myself into believing that what I was doing was okay, or just letting me do it. Perez is just a character. It's not me. If people don't like what I'm writing, they shouldn't read it. And I'm just talking to my friends on the internet like I do my friends in the real world. Why should I behave differently in public than I do privately? Thankfully, I started having these different thoughts in 2008, and I'll get to them. And thankfully, I grew the fuck up. Thankfully, I realized I was wrong. And not everybody does that. I mean, look at Donald Trump. He never grew up. He never changed. Well into his 70s, he was still doing the same toxic bullshit that he had been his whole life, and he got all the way into the White House. Or more recently, look at Piers Morgan. He's, I don't know his age, I'm guessing late 50s.
55. Okay,
mid 50s, and has he grown up? No. I still make mistakes, but the big difference from 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is if I make a mistake, it's not something where I sit down and say to myself, okay, I know that this is going to upset people or this is going to be hurtful and I don't care. I want a reaction out of people. That's not, sometimes I still upset people just by asking a question. Like just this week on Tuesday, this is hilarious. I'm guessing some of what you want to talk about is about cancel culture and all that. You can't cancel somebody that's already been canceled 100 times. Like I've probably been canceled 1,000 times already. And I'm still here and doing great things and big things. I released my memoir last year. I was on Australian television all over the country on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, Australia last year. Just this week, I was commenting for Channel 5 News, a national broadcaster in the UK, about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and their Oprah interview. So also on Tuesday, that's when I did that interview, but on Tuesday, Zayn Malik tweeted, "Fuck you" to the Grammys. And he was really angry about that. And I asked a question. My question was, is this shade towards Harry Styles? That's not a mean, nasty, cruel, offensive question. It was a legitimate question. And I got canceled. Literally, like, all of these Zayn fans bombarding me with hate.
But does that maybe tell you, that people try to do this with you ritualistically? Does it kind of indicate that cancel culture is maybe not a thing because you're still here?
I do believe it's a thing, but it's It depends how you. Okay, first of all, everything is semantics, and one person might say cancel culture, another person might say righteous indignation, a third person might say woketivism, whatever it is. I do believe that it's a real thing, but I also believe that you can outlast cancel culture. Like, look at Chris Brown. Chris Brown has been canceled, but he still has a thriving career. He still gets played on the radio and has radio hits and gets co-signed by the establishment. So in 2008, I was starting to have these thoughts about changing things, but I was afraid. I was paralyzed by fear, which is very unlike me because I've always been pretty fearless. And by pretty fearless, I mean very fearless. But I kept making the comparison in my mind of, that's like a country singer who now wants to be a rapper. You just can't be a rapper
Right.
now if you're a country music singer. I've been doing what I do at that point for 4 years. And I had established this brand, and I was afraid of changing. I was afraid that everything that I had worked really hard for over the last 4 years to build would crumble and people would not be receptive of this change. So I kept up things as they were for a year and a half. And what's important to remember, though, is yes, I own it. I've talked about it before. I've apologized countless times. A lot of what I did during that time was reprehensible and toxic, but that wasn't everything. I wasn't just nasty and mean and cruel and hurtful. I was also positive and supportive, and there were the people that I liked. And in my mind, this is what I had told Jennifer Aniston when I had that run-in with her in a parking lot. I said, I didn't view you as a person. You were this soap opera character to me. And I had my heroes and I had my villains. And I thought along the way that I also did do good. I did talk about politics and cultural issues that were important. I helped people along the way. There was even that musical last year that came out called The Prom. I invited that girl to my birthday party. So in the fall of 2010, a year and a half after already contemplating often and seriously changing things, there were, I forget the exact number, but well over 20 gay teenagers, LGBTQ youth, that died by suicide. And I had never seen anything like that before. And thankfully, there's never been anything like that since. Right around that time, this journalist, Dan Savage, created this campaign called It Gets Better, which was very simple in concept. It was older folks encouraging younger people and sharing their stories. And unless I'm mistaken, I think I was the first public figure or personality to make an It Gets Better video. Because, that's my job, to be plugged in and know what's happening. And I must have gotten a press release or something. I saw that Dan started this, and right away I made a video. And I thought, wow, in this dark moment, I'm doing something to create light. But the response that I got to that video shook me to my core. Because even though I thought I was doing something positive, the reaction I got was, overwhelmingly negative. People said, how dare you make an It Gets Better video? You're a hypocrite. You're a bully. You're a part of the problem. And that's when I had to take a real hard look in the mirror and say, gosh, that's not who I am in my heart. That's not who my friends know. That's not who my family knows, but that is who I've become. I needed to really look in the mirror and stop that bullshit of it's just a character. And, that was my Oprah moment. Oprah, whom I love, the very last episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show, if you've ever watched it, it's one of the most yeah. Not when she was at the United Center and Beyonce performed. It was just her.
I remember, yeah. Back in the studio, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like her ultimate master class. She's like, this is everything I've learned in life until now. Mm-hmm. And she said, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, has the answers and will speak to you. And if you choose not to listen, the universe or God will speak louder, and it'll speak louder. And if you're still not listening, it'll smack you upside the head. And that is what happened in that moment. The universe smacked me upside my head. And it gave me the push and the strength that I needed to make this change that I already wanted to make, but I was too afraid to act upon. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I didn't care if everything fell apart because it was the right thing to do. And this is where things get real. It's 11 years since then now. And I have also fully, not just taken accountability, but I've also fully accepted, I would like to be wrong, but I've fully accepted that no matter how much I have changed and how I do things differently, that the overwhelming majority of the world still only views me through the filter of my past. Mm-hmm. And still judges me for everything that I did 11 plus years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Fair? Do I think that's fair? Sure. I don't, that's not for me. Would I wish that weren't the case? Yes, I wish that weren't the case. I feel like society can forgive. I go back to the drug addict, the drug addict who stole, robbed, did awful things to friends and family. Yeah. But got clean and sober.
Yeah. But I think the difference is like a drug addiction is fundamentally different from like
I really believe I have an addictive personality. I've talked about that with my therapist. I really believe it was a serious addiction at the time that I caught, and I'm not just bullshitting. I'm not saying this like in when was this? I think in January of 2018, I made a video saying I'm an addict and I'm addicted to social media in a very unhealthy way. Like I would like, and it's tied to my OCD. Like I would feel this need to not just look at all the comments, but then like every single comment on Twitter and I really have and it's like my food addictions as well. Like
but let me ask you a question about social media. Like I'd be curious because you came up in a very different time. Like this is not the environment that you first launched your website on. If social media had existed 2000 when did you launch?
2004.
It was like early aughts. Yeah. So when that happened, if Twitter had existed, if Facebook was a bigger thing, if TikTok was, what it is now, do you think that immediate negative response through social media would have changed how you were writing your coverage? Would it have changed how you would have felt about the attention? If you had launched today saying the same stuff, I mean, you would have a very different, it would be a very different reaction. And it wasn't just about views, it would also be about perception.
Yeah, I didn't need social media to tell me at the time that a lot of people were
Right.
upset with what I was saying and didn't like it. And in many ways, I laid the groundwork or I was the prototype for many personalities that came after me. If you're trying to ask, would I have been successful if everything were as it is today? I say yes. I mean, look at those that came after me, like Logan Paul and Jake Paul or Tana Mojo, or even more recently, a younger version, Bryce Hall. Us provocateurs still, I wouldn't even say us, but the provocateur still can be very successful, and people buy into them and are. I'm not a fan of Jake Paul or Logan Paul or Tana Mojo or Bryce Hall, but they have a lot of fans.
Right. But I guess the big difference about them, like I cover them. I don't watch them, socially. In my coverage of them, though they might do stuff that I find really bizarre, I might not necessarily agree with ethically. To my knowledge, they aren't engaging in stuff like outing. There isn't a ton of kind of ritualistic sexism that happens in their videos. I mean, and certainly I would say, and this I think eventually happened with you, that you became part of the story, which I think is very much happening with them. But they were not reporters talking about other people. They are putting themselves in position to be talked about. That I think is that seems like a salient difference between you and them. Though I think some of the attention stuff does make a lot of sense.
But I mean, well, I don't need to get into it about them, but yeah, they do. Yeah. They all do really awful things.
Very true. Very true.
No, yeah. But I made myself the story from the very beginning of my career on purpose. It's that old saying, fake it till you make it. I was very strategic. I wanted to give the impression that I was in these circles, that I was where all the action was happening. And I was at the time. That's why I used to go out to all of these parties and events. And I used to go to the Sundance Film Festival every year just to party and hang out with celebrities and see them. And I used to go to the Super Bowl, even though I don't like football, but that's where celebrities would go. So that was very much strategic and calculated. Just like it was, just like also like it was strategic and calculated for Perez Hilton to befriend me. And just like it was strategic and calculated for Kim Kardashian to befriend the paparazzi and start tipping them off, which actually she still does.
I'm curious then, it sounds like you recognize a lot of what your old pathways were and why they were not good for you, not good for anybody. What does the forgiveness process look like for you? Have you apologized to people directly?
Yes.
Do you continue to apologize to people in public? Have you thought about what restorative justice looks like in this context? I mean, I think something that comes up a lot is obviously you made quite a bit of money off of that kind of behavior. So what do you do with then making money off of the backs of people that are marginalized? What does that look like now that you kind of understand it better?
I think often of the drama surrounding Kevin Hart when he was asked to host the Oscars, and some of his past homophobic jokes came back into light, and he refused to apologize for them because he claimed that he had already apologized for it. I'm more than comfortable continuing to apologize for the mistakes of my past, even though I wish I didn't have to, and I don't have to. If I really didn't want to, I wouldn't. I wish that people, like I said, and actually this if you work in this space, you know this is true. We live in such a shallow world that, go with me here. I'm like, this is this is clearly not reality. This is like my dream world, my fantasy. If all of a sudden Ryan Murphy says, "Hey Perez, I want to cast you as one of the leads in my new sitcom that's going to air on Fox," and then it becomes like this huge global pop culture phenomenon like Glee was. Mega success of that level would not erase my past, but in many ways would let people move on. They would,
Yes.
How shallow and sad is that? So I wish for that.
Right. So is what I'm trying to understand what you're saying with that sort of analogy.
I would love if people, or if I got a talk show and people were like, you know what? He's really not who I thought he was. Oh, wow. He's really grown, and
right.
I really love what he has to say. And
do you feel frustrated that those opportunities don't come to you to do that?
Well, if you talked about what's the word you used?
Restorative
right.
justice. Yeah.
Like I'm already doing that by all of the doors being shut in my face. Like people want to see me suffer, and I know that I do not get opportunities presented to me because of my past. And people want to see me suffer. And I know that most gay men hate me because of the mistakes of my past. Mm-hmm. But despite all that, I'm not suffering. I live a full and happy life. Is it my dream life? Is it ideal? Is it, quote, perfect? No, but I have 3 beautiful, healthy, happy children. My mother is alive and lives with me. And I have a really small group of friends that are like family to me. Mm-hmm. And I live a full, happy life. And I'm still working and doing so many different things. And I do have people who see me for who I am today. I call them my fram, my supporters. Fram is like those family and friends that are forever. And I'm really lucky to have people that have seen the change in me and grown up with me and realized I like him. Because I think I am a likable person. I don't think, when you compare me with Donald Trump, I think I'm much more likable than Donald Trump.
I don't think you need to play that game. Like, that's real low bar. I think you can pick somebody else. But I'm curious, I mean, if it sounds like you continue, and that you will continue to deal with a pretty hostile audience.
Yeah.
No matter what, probably for the rest of your career.
Oh, so more than that. More than that. I talked about this with my therapist. And if people want me to suffer, this is what I actually think is true. If I were to die today unexpectedly, if I were to be murdered or died of cancer and I kept it a secret, most people would celebrate. The majority of the world would be happy that I was dead. Even if I leave behind 3 small children, they'd be like, "Oh, thank God. I feel bad for his kids." You
think they'd be happy?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know it. Oh, they might say, "Oh, I feel bad for his young kids, but the world's a better place without him." Or he was so toxic. Woo, thank God we finally got rid of him. What took so long? I 1,000% believe that. And that's a bitter pill for me to accept. And I accept it.
Does that feel like a proportional response to your history?
I don't know. That's not for me to decide. I think all that I could do is grow and learn and be better and do better. And I really do believe I've done that. Yes, I've had slip ups. Yes, I've had mistakes along the way. But I know, because I lived my past, I know how I do things today is night and day from back then.
Did you ever consider, when you're going through this like personal reckoning, and even now, hey, maybe this isn't the career that I should continue doing. Maybe I should figure out something else to do because the audience is not going to accept this.
Not at all. Because that's not the mess. Well, first of all, I still love all of the things that I do. And I've also had a change. Last year and before, if you watched interviews that I gave, and even still, like, yes, I carry with me a lot of shame, embarrassment, and remorse over my past behavior. But where I'm at now, I'm also fucking proud of the career that I've had, the things that I've done professionally, from releasing 4 books, having a syndicated radio show that ran for a decade, acting in films and television and off-Broadway, appearing in music videos with superstars and more. Like, what I'm going to tell my kids is, yeah, I made mistakes, but you know what? You're going to make mistakes too. And all the people criticizing me, they're not perfect either. And the people that want to see me suffer, that want to see me hurt, what does that say about them? And so many people do want to see me suffer and hurt.
I wonder if it's not so much like about seeing you suffer.
No, they do want that. They do. I look at my comments. They want, maybe not everybody, clearly, but most would want to see me suffer. And most think, oh, he had that coming. Karma finally caught up with him, and all of those expressions.
Do you think that part of it, I'm thinking about this a lot. I spoke to Lainey Gossip. Do you know Lainey Lou?
Yeah, I know Lainey.
And her site. Yeah. So I talked to her a little bit because she has sort of started to do something very similar. She's been going through old posts. She's putting little notices on top of stuff that she doesn't stand by anymore. And then for stuff that's really egregious, she has had to take it down. And is kind of thinking about the same things, like, what does restorative justice look like in this context? How do I say, I'm sorry, what do I do? What's the work that I need to do? And I feel like her audience has, some people left because they were like, fuck this, like, I don't want to read this shit, and like, doesn't feel good. And then some people grew with her and have, I think on some level, accepted that she has changed. And it seems like with you, a lot of people don't accept that. And I wonder if you have a theory as to why someone like Lainey, who much like you is, comes from an underrepresented group and said a lot of the same sort of things, trafficked in the same sort of content and tone, why her audience seems more willing to consider it and move with her, but yours is very much still talking about like you said, 2007.
Because, how do I say this delicately? I was a lot more well-known than Lainey. And I'm a fan of hers. But she wasn't as mass or mainstream as me. So, she's on a TV show in Canada now, and maybe a lot of that audience didn't even read her blog when she started on that TV show. And they got to know her for who she is today. That's also one of the reasons I gave you an example a few moments ago about, it'd be great if I was on a panel show like that and I could show people who I am today. Because also, there's no faking that, right? Like, when you're yourself on a show like that, you reveal yourself over time, and that's who you are. And I think, I would love for people to get to learn who I am and see who I am. I think my podcast listeners get that. I think the people that watch my family channel on YouTube get that and they see me for who I really am. But obviously, that's not the majority of people.
Right. Okay. Do you feel like I mean, part of this is just like the blog culture has changed so much in the last 10 years. Social media changed how we consume celebrity content.
But,
Do you
well,
think that
has it really? Things have changed.
I think celebrity blogging culture has changed a lot. I mean,
has
I think
TMZ changed that much?
I think so. I think not so much the outlet. I mean, like the audience's ravenous consumption of it, I think, has shifted quite a bit. I think it has changed.
I wouldn't. I would say TMZ is still incredibly successful and has a huge.
I still think they're successful. I guess I just mean.
And like, how they talk about celebrities, I don't think has changed that much. And then you also have, like an account like the Dumois account, that is posting unverified gossip that many people think could be hurtful and all these things, or like, a lot of the people that criticize me are also hypocrites.
In what way?
In that they're the moral police and they can do no wrong, yet so many people are doing in different ways what I did back then.
How?
For example, I've got two great examples for you.
Okay.
More recently, I was really happy and supportive of JoJo Siwa, the teenager, when she announced that she didn't put a label on it, but she just came out of the closet.
She came out of the closet, yeah.
Yeah, she came out of the closet, but she didn't say I'm gay, I'm bi, I'm queer. I think gay maybe is the appropriate word.
She's dating another girl.
She wrote a shirt that said I'm my best gay cousin. So maybe she could say, so many people, because I read comments everywhere, not even on my site or my social media, is like, I'll do a random search on Twitter to see what people are saying about JoJo Siwa. And then so many people like, she should really stop dressing like a 10-year-old. Oh my God, she's balding because of her ponytail. Like, hopefully, I think the media as a whole has gotten better, but has the general public gotten much better?
Right.
I don't know. Or like last year, in a very major way, Kanye West went through some very public episodes, mental health related, much like Britney Spears. Yet, I would say most people on social media were not leading with empathy and compassion towards Kanye West. It wasn't the media. It was average people.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, that was sort of what I was leading to with my question, is that, like, I'm curious if your audience has changed or left, or, whatever word you want to use, if your cultural relevance has changed in the last few years because you have stopped engaging in a cruel way, in a way that I think a lot of people found really delicious. I mean, I'm saying this myself. I read it a lot, and I was a teenager, and so it was fun to sort of watch somebody punch up at these people, and then as you get older, you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I've changed my mind on how I feel about this, as you have too.
Am I an it girl like I used to be? No. But is Perez Hilton an it girl anymore? No. Is Lindsay Lohan an it girl anymore? No. Does Perez Hilton have the cultural relevancy that she did in 2004 or 5? No. Does Lindsay Lohan have the cultural relevancy that she did in 2004 or 5? No. But I'm an icon. And I'm not saying that to be cocky. I am. I am the original influencer. Before that word even existed, there was me. Before social media was even a thing, there was me. I did it before I even knew that I could do it for a career. And I've outlasted not just my peers in the blogging world, but I've outlasted a lot of the mainstream press. I mean, the TV show The Insider, they're the ones that named me Hollywood's most hated website. They're not around anymore. So many magazines have gone out of print and don't exist anymore. I remember Blender magazine in 2008. Taylor Swift was on the cover and she was asked, who would you like to go to prom with? And she said, Perez Hilton. And that magazine's not around anymore. I've outlasted many of the celebrities that I was talking about when I first began my career. And because I'm an icon and because I'm cancel proof, I will be around forever. Or until I decide I don't want to be around anymore and I ghost the world, which I don't think will happen because I love connecting with people and entertaining them and distracting them and providing this escape and putting smiles on their faces. I'm grateful that I get to wake up 17 years later and love all of the different things that I do. I still enjoy it.
I have a couple more questions, or just about a couple specifics. I know you've talked a lot about how you've changed a great deal. I'm curious where you land on some of the outing that used to happen on your site.
It goes back to what I said at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious if you contacted any of those people, if that's ever been a conversation, because I think that's fundamentally different from so-and-so's fat. Like that's a very, especially when you talk about like the Dan Savage project, that's much more emotional. I'm just curious what.
So, back in the day, I used to do that because, as I mentioned, my friends and I would talk about in private the celebrities that were closeted. So, in my mind back then, that's how I would justify it. Oh, why should I not talk to my online friends the same way that I talk to my in real life friends? I've apologized for that as a whole, and not everybody has forgiven me or been gracious about it, and that's fine. They don't have to forgive me. But then there are those that have been very amazing and understanding, or I don't know if understanding is the word. There are the ones that have been very magnanimous, like Neil Patrick Harris, whom I would say since then I've been a friendly acquaintance with. We're not friends, but if I see him out and about somewhere, an event, we'll chat. He's been very kind. He included me in his book. He released a book and asked me to write something in it, and I apologized in his book. So that was very nice of him. More than nice. That was very noble of him. And I was thankful that I got to do that.
Okay. How did you feel after you watched the Britney doc? That must have been...
I haven't watched it still.
You haven't seen it?
No.
Are you going to watch it?
No. Why? I almost feel like the documentary is doing the same exact thing in a different way. It's exploiting her yet again because it's, like you mentioned, it's a for-profit venture. The New York Times isn't donating the money to charity. They're not giving the money to Britney Spears. And there wasn't anything new that came out of it. If there was explosive new revelations, I would have heard about it. There weren't any explosive new revelations. There wasn't any. True. It was just a regurgitation of the past and what happened.
Well, but by that token, does that mean that all gossip is irrelevant? Because it's if the money is
no, I'm not saying it's irrelevant. I say the opposite. I think it's essential. In a way, it's kind of like McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get. You can have a salad at McDonald's that is on the menu as well. But when most people go to McDonald's, they don't want the salad. They want the Big Mac with large French fries, a Coke, and a sundae. I think that's important. People want McDonald's and need McDonald's. But then now, in the wake of the Framing Britney documentary, Netflix is doing another one. Netflix is doing one, right? And it's like, what's the point of that one? And who I'm interested to hear from is Britney.
Yeah, we all are.
If and when she wants to speak.
Yeah, right.
And I think, and this might be controversial, but I think if Britney wanted to speak, she would, and she could.
Okay.
You can do a search of maybe not 2020 because, with the pandemic, but let's say 2019. Britney was photographed by the paparazzi in 2019 a handful of times. Nowhere near the amount of times she used to back in the day, but she was still caught by the paparazzi a handful of times in 2019. If Britney's not trapped in her house, if she tells her conservator, I want to go on a shopping trip to Beverly Hills, she can go on a shopping trip to Beverly Hills and word would get to the paparazzi and they'll take her photo. And if she wanted to, she could have a spontaneous press conference and say to the paparazzi whatever she wanted to say. And also, she has spoken out in video. Maybe somebody else wrote what she had to say, but I don't believe she was forced to say those things. I don't think she would have said what she did in video that she shared on Instagram saying, please stop sending threats. I'm okay. Please leave my family alone. I don't think she would have said that if she didn't believe it.
Right. Okay.
I definitely do think it's complicated talking about Britney because a lot of it's speculation. Most of it's speculation. Mm-hmm. And I was about to start speculating, but I'll give you my speculation. I think the main reason the conservatorship is still in place is because of her children. When they are no longer minors, I think Britney will be done with the conservatorship.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This is my last question, then I can let you go because you've given me a lot of time. Are you trying to cover like the Gen Z, TikTok famous youths?
Yeah, I started an Instagram account just for that. It's Coco Perez. I didn't start it. I rebranded it.
I remember. Yeah, I do remember.
Coco Perez Insta.
Launched. It was about the children of famous people originally.
No, that's Perezitos. That's different.
Oh, okay.
So Coco Perez used to be my fashion brand. And now on Instagram, I've rebranded it to be fashion and creator culture is what I call it.
Oh, okay.
Fashion and creator culture. It just sounds better. Fashion and creator culture. So that's my space to talk about all these influencers because the influencer is the new reality TV star. They want to be talked about and they're doing awful things on purpose to be talked about. So for me, I love that. It's one of the reasons why the Kardashians had a successful reality show for so long because they played the game and they wanted to be talked about. Same with these influencers.
Where are you at with TikTok? Have they let you back on?
They haven't let me back on, but I'm thankful. I thank them because, and this is great, everything happens for a reason. Life has taught me that. Had I not gotten banned from TikTok, I would have not started my conversations with Triller, and Triller gave me a TV show. Every Tuesday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, I've now got my own 30-minute block of programming on the Triller app and Triller TV, and they're paying me for my 5-month contract more than I would have made in 3 or 4 years on TikTok, even if I continued to grow and doing the projections based on how much I was earning. So thank you, TikTok.
Got it. Okay. Those are all my questions for you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
If
I
you have
appreciate it. I
any
really appreciate your time.
follow-ups, you could just email my assistant and
I will.
yeah. Let me think if I have any parting words.
Mhm. Here's what else, if I may. I feel like I think it would be helpful for people to hear. I know you've said this before, but I generally think with apologies, you sometimes have to just keep saying it over and over again. And I wonder if it'd even be helpful if you just said, for this,
Sure.
I'm sorry.
I am sorry. I am deeply sorry. Like I said, I still carry with it's like I have all this baggage, and everybody has baggage. Mine is just very public. I'm sorry, and if I could go back in time and do things differently, I would. I would. And I'm not just saying that. Because also, now that I'm older, I realize I'm just crazy and fabulous enough that I would have still been successful. I didn't have to do all of those things. I just was young, insecure, and a full-blown addict, and I thought I needed to do all of this, and it was easy and quick, and it was like my hit, and yeah, so I thought I did apologize in this. I'll apologize.
Well, you know what I mean? I just wanted to give
I can give you a different apology. It's like, I did not watch the Britney documentary because when I saw the clip of myself on it, I cringed. I was ashamed and embarrassed. And I wanted to protect my mental health. I didn't think watching that would be good for me. And I can only imagine how I don't even need to imagine. I know what it's like to be on the receiving end of hate. And I'm happy when I've been able to mend things with people, because it's nice to know that there is less toxic energy out there being sent my way. And I don't know, like, of course I'm sorry.
I understand.
If I wasn't sorry, I would still be doing the same shit I was doing in different ways, in crazy, I'd probably actually even worse, in wilder. I would have had to get more shocking and, more outlandish or whatever it might be. And there would have still been an audience for that. There's a lot of really awful, very successful people. Or like, I mentioned Chris Brown. He was canceled and he still has a career. Even a more extreme example, Bill Cosby, convicted rapist, in jail for rape, and dozens of other women have accused him of rape as well, but they were not tried. Those cases were not tried. If he doesn't die in jail, if he's released tomorrow, if Bill Cosby wanted to do a stand-up comedy tour, there are a lot of people that would probably go see him in concert.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I am sorry, and I'll continue to say I'm sorry. I guess maybe it's like, I'm exhausted of saying I'm sorry, though. It's like, I've said it, and then when you ask at the end, I'm like, haven't I already said I'm sorry? It's like,
well, but I think that's the thing about these sorts of conversations is you probably will spend the rest of your life saying that, and that will be your comeuppance, Frank. You know what I mean? Like, that's just sort of what you have to do. I mean, I'm not making the rules here. I don't, you don't have to apologize to me. I don't care. But like, that just might be what you will be required to do for many years to come. I don't know.
Yeah.
Even talking to Lainey about this, or Jared, who I also spoke to, I think there's an understanding that they will have to do that. And to your point,
I agree.
You were the most popular. You were the most famous. I mean, you just have a kind of visibility in that space that not everybody had, and also you weren't anonymous. I don't know. I don't remember. I never knew who was running, like, delisted, or, oh no, they didn't. Like, I didn't have an awareness of them as a reader, but we had an awareness of you. So it becomes about you, whether or not you're a staff is not.
That's
important.
why I hope for that sitcom.
TV show. I hear you. Well,
that would be, because listen, I do believe that people should be able to grow. Mm-hmm. and be better people. I don't think anyone's making the argument to the opposite of that. I think it's just a question of whether people want to continue engaging with your growth, right? That's an individual process. Everybody might not want to, be with you on that journey. Yeah, I know. I can't. That's why that's why I've also been like, you know what? Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm also proud. I'm not totally ashamed of everything. Like, I support my family. I was able to help my mother come out of bankruptcy and take care of her. Not everything that I did was awful. And still, I help a lot of people now behind the scenes. Like, I'm a mentor to a lot of young talent and musicians and influencers who send me music or ask me for my advice on things, and I happily help them and give them advice like, oh, don't do this, I did that, that's a big mistake, and trying to pay it forward in my own way. Right. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I almost maybe I should start to become like Kevin Hart though. Because, like, who the fuck cares at this point? Like, well, I don't think that's. I mean, I think if you are truly repentant, you wouldn't. No, I know. Yeah. But it's also like, I don't know. Yeah. It's like I could continue to apologize for 40 years more, and people won't be happy. And that's the reality. That is the reality. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'll let you know if I have any other follow-ups. Otherwise, I think we're aiming to publish before the end of the month, so I can send you guys a link when it's live. Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye. So, I still think the piece is going to be a hit job, a hatchet piece, as they say. But the journalist was nice. And it wasn't like, grrr. It wasn't like she was punching me, which was nice. And I was happy with how I conducted myself for most of the interview, except for the very end. Because after chatting with her for about an hour, she asked me to apologize, and I thought I had. Or, like, didn't my words make it seem like I was sorry and remorseful for everything that I had previously done? Not everything, but you know what I mean. So, I don't know. That might be what she leads with. Perez Hilton refuses to apologize. But I didn't refuse to apologize. I did. Oh, life. Life is a kaba. Gotta stop. Don't want to get copyright infringement. You watching this right now. I gotta stop moving the table. That's exhausting. I'm just exhausted now. You watching this in its entirety. You are what keeps me going, and also that I love what I do. We keep going together. That was a roller coaster. Thanks for joining me. Bye!